daughters of the country he birthed crying out "Papa" as his casket was brought into Sir Hubert Murray Stadium. It was only fitting that the late Grand Chief Sir Michael Somare's last-born daughter take up the gruesome task of putting her father's life achievements into a 30-minute eulogy.
My father was a decent man, and that provided him with the moral compass and trajectory needed to rise above the conflict that great national wealth can bring to any nation. He followed his heart before his mind, and in my view, that was the only way to truly unite our diverse country. His custom, our Sana tradition, was his rudder. When he set sail in his traditional canoe, our muntai.
Dulcianna Somare-Brash spoke of her father's early political career in 1968 and his push for unity across PNG.
When our landowners are consulted ahead of major impact projects on their land and sea, we must never forget that the right to be heard was not always a right in this country. Today, when we comment publicly and politically about confronting issues and current affairs, we must never forget that having an opinion in this country once attracted unwelcome attention and punitive sanctions. Service at shops, hotels, restaurants and bars were not always available to us, the Indigenous people of Papua New Guinea. And importantly, we were divided into protectorates and territories with different rules and laws that can't have been easy to bring together under a single system that would cater for a peoples with over 1,000 tribes, languages and customs. I want to remember my father in this way for his vision and faith in himself, carry the burden of hope that one day we would define our own way in the world through effective trade and economic cooperation, bilateral and multilateral treaties and commercial agreements and public policies that today enshrine his perennial wish for his people to participate in their own political, economic and social development and independence.
Dulcianna then going on to speak on the 2011 impasse.
On this country's life journey, he was Yamdar, our totem that is capable of great good and such malevolence too. Sana is a way of life that my father chose each time he faced hardship and conflict. He chose to show affection to garner trust, but this enviable human trait was used against him in the end, and he was vilified and treated very poorly and publicly as he was deemed weak because he pledged as a young man during his own initiation to live a compassionate life.
Dulcianna remembering her early upbringing as her father pushed for political independence and remembering how her father cushioned her siblings and her from political changes when he faced several votes of no confidence.
For public life and prolific responsibilities while being trained to acknowledge the efforts of staff and all those who contributed to our immense comfort. There are no words for these special gifts that only stable parents can offer their children. In later years, when Dada became PM again, we enjoyed visiting that stately manor with our own children and our own families. I want to say this. My father's leadership was shared with us in such a humble way that the lessons will never be lost, as we were never forced to be anyone other than ourselves. Whatever we have chosen after this fact have been our adult decisions once we left the care and fortitude of our parents' home as young adults.
Dulcianna speaking of fear and emotions felt in the recent days when her family found out of his diagnosis of pancreatic cancer.
On Friday, the 12th of February 2021, the awful diagnosis that my father had terminal cancer. It was pancreatic cancer. My family learnt the hard way that this form of cancer only fully manifests itself often when it's too late.
She went on to acknowledge her siblings and mother's role in their late father's life.
Traumas we faced with our parents in the last 12 years. I acknowledge my elder brothers Sana and Arthur for their instinct in helping to guide my father in his recent tumultuous political tenure as Prime Minister from 2002. I thank my brother Michael Jr. for always carrying out my father's wishes for us to remain in East Sepik Province. To my sister Emma, for her undying faith that provided the basis for my father's earlier medical, and for her well-raised children who show up when times are tough. And the matriarch who worshipped my father even when his journey became confusing to her.
Grand Chief Sir Michael was first elected to the Second House of Assembly for the East Sepik Regional seat in 1968. He returned for the same seat in the Third House of Assembly in 1972 and continued to represent the people of East Sepik in the First National Parliament up until he retired in politics in 2017. Sir Michael was elected Prime Minister 5 times over his political career, and he also served as the opposition leader twice.
Our beloved Father is guiding us, I know, to come together in prayer and in peace as one for the sake of Papua New Guinea. Dada, I thank you for finding the inner peace to carry the burden of hope always for our complex and diverse country. I thank you for dedicating your life to service and for providing your paternal love to us, your children, and to your people. I will miss you terribly for the rest of my days, yet I am filled with the hope now that your memory will be preserved in love. Dewan Tunga Papa, your triumphs will remain the invisible hand that leads us, your people, to always fight the good fight in good faith and always with goodwill. Kujanga.
Adelaide Xerox Kari, National, EMTV News.